Welcome to Money on Tap. Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. That's what we do on this show. We look at all sides of the issues, and we bring a fully independent planning perspective to the table. Welcome to Money on Tap. My name's Seth Krussman.
And I'm Ben Brayshaw.
Glad to have you aboard today, folks. It's a big one. This is the show that we've been talking about for, well, the last 4 years, pretty much. If you're wondering, what has this all been leading up to? Well, it is today. It's here and now. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Why? Why would I say today is the day for this show? Well, get on your phone, get on your laptop, your pad, whatever, and just take a look at the news because the Dow hit 30,000. The Dow 30, folks, hit 30,000. We're going to talk about that more coming up. Beyond that, real estate, right? Real estate has been hit. So it's been hit hard as a sector in the investment world. And for this, that's just been one of the pandemic stories that we've been watching and following. But today, we want to ask you the question. We're going to bring on an expert, somebody I know pretty well. Ben knows pretty well.
You know her much better than I do, Seth.
Yep.
And we're bringing on Seth's wife, Kirra Krussman, who is a CCIM. She is a certified commercial investment member, which is basically... She is an expert in commercial investment real estate. And I'm pretty excited. I mean, Seth's got a pretty key connection here, and it's kind of fun to have her coming on a little bit later. But, we're going to talk a little bit about real estate. I mean, the Dow has hit 30,000, and everybody's like, stock. But real estate has been just crushed through this pandemic. And the question is, are you taking notice? Are you evaluating opportunities that might be staring you right in the face and just ignoring them because you might be afraid of going back to work? So what's next?
Pretty loaded question there, but it's a good lead in for us because now it's time for Money in the News.
So the Dow has hit 30,000. November 24th, 2020, the Dow hits it. We called it here on the show a while back. It was 4 or 5 months ago. We talked about how we felt the Dow was going to hit, 30,000 before the end of this year, beginning of next.
Yeah, Ben, I got to jump in right there. That was actually back in June 25th, that we released that show, Real Estate, Your Number One Hard Asset. Pretty funny that we're doing a real estate show today. And we were talking about the Dow 30. Hey, Roger, can you please grab that and have a listen to this?
Ben and I, guess what we called, I don't know. We're going on 8 months ago. Maybe I think we called the Dow at 30.
Yeah, I think I think the Dow, if we get past the coronavirus fear, I think the Dow hits 30,000 end of this year, beginning of next. I still think we have, because the thing is that the Fed has poured and the government has poured so much money into our economy, probably more than, I don't even know if it's more, but I mean, it's just so much money that offsets everything we're not spending, not doing. So, does the Dow hit? I mean, you've got to remember, the Dow is only the 30 largest companies in the U.S. So, I mean, it's not like we're talking about the S&P 500 and the 500 large caps. We're talking about 30 companies. So we base progress on such a small point in the marketplace as a whole. But when you talk about, like, Seth, just to even compound on that, Campbell Harvey, he's a professor of finance at the Fuqua School at Duke University. Yeah. He predicted a recession for early 2020 or early 21. He's got basically a perfect record for calling recessions and is betting this one will be over by the end of 2020. I like this guy. We've been talking about this because, honestly, it couldn't not hit 30,000. Because ultimately, with all the money and all the stimulus and all the stuff, I mean, the GDP and the economy was skyrocketing. We were heading there to begin with. And then we had this crushing pandemic on our economy. And when the stimulus hit, we knew that just the rebound off of that alone had to send it in that direction. It just had to be there. And that is something that we have been calculating inside our story for a long time. But what is the Dow? We did the Dow 30 show. We talked about it. It's 30 companies. It's 30 stocks. Companies move in and out. Exxon was kicked out this year. What was it? Who else was kicked out? Somebody else was kicked out, Seth. They're rotating companies.
Pfizer,
Yep.
Exxon, Raytheon.
Yep. And we have gone through this experience of always figuring out that the Dow, if it's up, the market's doing great. Problem is the Dow is only 30 stocks, and we talk about that all the time. It's only 30 companies.
It's only 30 stocks, and it's chosen by the S&P board as well as the Wall Street Journal editors, which that goes back to the creation of the Dow, which was which brought originally the 12 smokestack stocks, and it was the Wall Street Journal's editor that created this indice to really try to describe what's going on in the market, and then it grew to 30, and it's remained at 30 for pretty much the life of the index, the majority of the index. But the names have changed, but and some of the methodology around it has changed because it's a price weighted indice, not a market weighted indice. So for instance, Apple is the largest stock that's in the Dow.
Biggest company. Biggest company.
Biggest company. Yeah. Yeah. But when they did a 4-to-1 split, right, it changed how the Dow was priced because they lowered the price of the stock. So anyway, so you have a really kind of interesting methodology. So it's not like it really gives us a huge bellwether to what's going on in the economy, because that would probably be more likely the S&P 500. But it's a lot of fun, and it's historic, and does tell us some interesting things here, because why is technology a defensive stock when the pandemic hits? How did that happen?
No, that's a great point. And the thing is the weird thing about the Dow is it doesn't include utilities or real estate. So I'm really excited to have one of those sectors participating in today's show, the real estate piece. But it's 30 large U.S. companies. That's how it's described. It's not the largest even. And so that's kind of interesting because, Exxon was kicked out. I mean, that's, so they have the exclusive right to just say, you're gone. And it doesn't really have a weighting on that. But what is interesting is how, when Seth was saying it's a price weighted versus, a market value, what they're saying is the price of the stock, of each individual stock, no matter how big the company is how they figure it out. So basically the largest priced stock gets more attention when figuring out how the Dow moves. Where in the S&P 500, the value of the company becomes more relevant. And so they're totally different. And what's interesting is they have developed the Dow divisor, which is, basically this thing that looks like pi, and it's like 0.15198707565833. I think they're off by 1/millionth of a decimal on this, but I'm not sure. And
yeah, because I just plugged that in and I didn't come up with 30,000. So
I didn't either. And so, but the thing is they have this, and it's designed to absorb stock splits and deal with all of those types of things in the divisor. And when they rotate these companies, like when Apple did its split, it went from the largest priced stock to like on the bottom of the ladder. And instantly, if Apple doesn't climb, it doesn't mean anything anymore. But before, as Apple was shooting up, it was carrying the Dow all the way up to the top. Very interesting.
As was Boeing. But there's, for instance, that's a story that we know pretty well with the 737 MAX, and
Boeing kind of crashed and burned there.
Yeah, but just right before that, right before that, it was on a tear, and it was really pushing the numbers behind the Dow, and that was part of the story of the Dow. So here we are. How long did it take us to get from 20,000, because we did a show on the Dow 20,000, where were we at 2016 when we were talking about those numbers, And in the context of 4 years, we've climbed another 10,000. And how long did it take for that previous 1,000 or 10,000 at the 10 to 20,000 level, which was a doubling of the Dow? It was 18 years. So the relationship there, the correlation is not, well, it isn't precise, because a doubling doesn't equal a third, a rise of a third. So anyways, it's been moving really, really fast, and it's an exceptional thing to take a look at.
Yeah. That's the thing. Are we talking about Dow 40,000, Seth? Is that where we're going now? I don't know. We'll see. We're in the middle of a lockdown again.
Yeah. How long will it take for these companies to again push? Another 10,000 is less than the 10,000 previously. It's what? So what are we? So should we be talking about Dow 60,000? Because that's
only a couple decades away,
right? That's a tough one to call, but it's going to be a fun show too.
Yeah, I think ultimately what our point is here today is that we've hit a historic, monumental event, and this is something that everyone will remember. It is a day that will not go unremembered. It has been focused on as something bigger than Dow 20. It has been one of these things that people have been talking about. Is 40 coming around the corner? We're not ready to call that, but I do think that we have a lot to really iron out in our economy and all the things that are going on, and how this pandemic kind of shifts out. I mean, there's still election questions and all sorts of different pieces that are happening in our world around us, and I think we need to get to a better place before we can really do that. And when you hit all-time highs, everyone's excited, and that's when I usually say, sometimes you sell the news. And that's when you really want to start looking at, how do I be patient, take profits, maybe enjoy what I've made, and pull back a little bit. Not necessarily a bad conservative story after we've come out of a pandemic and made some real huge numbers this year. Yeah. If
you were to take a look at the what is so precious to us about this Dow is the 1896 to 2020. We just don't have any other indice out there that takes us so far back. I mean, if we were to take a look at what has the Dow come through, it's the Great Depression, it's World War II, the Cold War, .com, Spanish flu, 9/11, 2008, now COVID, and it's really is an exceptional story to be where we are today, hopefully on the backside of a pandemic, with all the news that we're seeing currently with, the virus news. And there's a lot of hope out there. There's just a ton of hope out there. And it's a great story for us to be able to talk about today and have some fun with as well.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people listening to the show saying, hey, I kind of wish I was living somewhere else right now. And, I found this article on Bloomberg, and as we experience the holidays and are thankful for Thanksgiving and all the things that it has brought to us, a lot of people are probably saying to themselves, I wish I was living somewhere else. I wish I was in a different state, a different country. Wish I wasn't dealing with this. And so we have an article here quickly. We're just going to spend 2 minutes on it. And sometimes perspective's really good, but right now, if you're living in New Zealand, it is considered the number one place to live in relation to COVID. Not bad. Number one on the list. Now, this list shows 53 countries here, and the United States is number 18. So it could be worse. And I mean, places that I would think would be good are way below the list. I mean, you've got Ireland at 20, and you got UK at 28, and you got Austria at 36, and you got France at 45. But honestly, I'm looking at this list, Seth, and the Bloomberg article from Rachel Chang, Jin Chun Hung, and Kevin Varley. It's a little bit biased because Singapore has a 0 test positive rate. I'm not sure that they're reporting correctly. What do you think?
Yeah, I saw that. That was an interesting find. I think that came across my desk yesterday. I was thinking about New Zealand always being a great place to go.
Of course. Of course.
I don't care what time of year you're talking about. Let's everybody that I've ever talked to said, A, this is a bucket list place. You have to put it on. And B, don't even think that 2 weeks is going to cut it. Like, you go there and you need to figure out a way to stay a year.
Yeah, of course. But I'm actually shocked that that Hong Kong and Singapore, which are considered better than the U.S., have, Hong Kong says it's 0.1% test positive rate. That's crazy. That's actually pretty phenomenal. But they're not really high on the list. New Zealand here, they're 0, but the resilience score is higher. But you could be in Hong Kong right now, or Singapore, not connecting with any COVID. I think they're lying to us.
I'm going to go back and talk about the Dow. You guys, this is a fun part of our show. We hope you enjoy it. It's Money in the News. We are going to come back after we take a quick break. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, it is Kirra Krussman CCIM, and that is my better half. And we're gonna hand the mic over to her, and we're gonna talk about real estate as an asset, as an asset class right now. We're gonna have a lot of fun. Definitely stick around.
Hi, my name is Ben Brayshaw, one of the co-hosts of Money on Tap. If you have questions when it comes to your retirement and are looking for a personalized solution, contact us at Brayshaw Financial Group. In today's volatile stock market, we can help you plan to find your successful retirement solution. Am I saving enough? Am I saving into the right places? Do my investments match my appetite for risk? Do I have a tax strategy that is going to help me keep more of what I earn? How can I maximize my Social Security income? If you are like most people, you are getting closer and closer to your retirement and may be wondering if you're taking the right steps. If you're in retirement, you may be wondering, am I maximizing my income while preserving my estate and caring for my family? We talk about all things financial in what we call three-dimensional investing, putting a plan around your financial future. If you feel that now is the time to start getting the answers to some of these questions for your own situation, give us a call at Brayshaw Financial Group at 855-226-8551. Headquartered in Bedford, New Hampshire, we have offices throughout New England and across the country. We would love the opportunity to show you how we can help. There's absolutely no cost or obligation just to meet with us, and we welcome you to our office. Call us at 855-226-8551.
Now back to Money on Tap with Ben and Seth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Folks, it has been a roller coaster out there. We've talked about the Dow 30 hitting 30,000, and to keep it fair and balanced, right? There's a sector that's missing from the Dow, that's real estate, and in order to represent that today, I'm so excited to be able to introduce you to the lovely, the incredible, the amazing Kirra Krussman CCIM, and I happen to have the honor of being her husband. And without further ado, we're going to talk about real estate. Okay, that's a hard asset. Dirt, you got buildings, you've got construction, you've got so many different places that you can really go with this. And it's really fun to have you with us today, Kirra. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on here.
Well, this is, as I said earlier, Seth's better whole. Some people say better half, but I think it's better whole. So we're going to go with that. And I get to ask Kirra a lot of questions today. I'm going to take a little bit of a lead here, take the biased out of Seth's approach here. But Kirra, let's first start off with, tell us a little bit about yourself. We know you're a CCIM. We know you're an expert in commercial real estate. Tell us a little bit about, how you got into real estate, just to give people a little bit of background and how long you've been in this and a little bit about your company.
Well, I kind of tease that I've been in real estate my whole life because my dad is a incredibly talented and well-known planning consultant. And he started his own consulting business in the early 80s during the recession when the engineer he was working for pretty much laid him off because nothing was happening. So, and he blew it up. I mean, he was just amazing. He would go out and stop by people's property and just say, hey, I've got this developer that I think would really like a project like this. Do you have any interest in selling? And so, of course, it was anytime I was in the car with him, I got to stop and talk to this person real quick. And I loved it. I watched him put together land deals so many times in people's living room as a little girl, and of course, all growing up. So eventually, it was a family business for a while, and we all helped. And my sister typed. I would clean the office. I filed, and I got to around the land development. I mean, he started an engineering firm, basically, from a consulting business. And so we were all involved, and I just heard the language for years and years. And so it just been around it forever. And in high school, I worked as a surveyor on his surveying crew, and then taught myself AutoCAD. And so I really learned things kind of backwards, or from the ground up, literally, the engineering and the planning and the surveying. I read maps. I knew construction from a very young age, and eventually, went to college and went back to work for him as a project manager. So they called me a plat pusher. So when they would design subdivisions, there's a partition or subdivision plat map, and I would get it through the entitlement process and approved. So that was my start. I eventually, Seth, close.
It sounds like there should be some child labor laws involved here.
Well, I just loved it. I mean, I loved watching the excavation crews. I got to work, sometimes they would let me get up there and play with the traco and dig, and it was just awesome. I loved it. So I got my license. I did very well. I knew exactly what to do. From after watching my dad all those years. So I would just go get listings, and I would just go get plots approved. And then I would end up selling the homes, or, anything that was built on it. And it was kind of a rural area where I was at Redmond, Oregon. So Bob Mayfield was the managing broker, and he taught me that I had to learn how to do everything if I was going to survive in that area. So I learned how to do everything. It was, from mobile homes on rural property to commercial buildings, managing properties, leasing, everything, new construction, sales. And so I did really well there for a while. And then I ended up needing to take care of my grandpa in Sacramento. So I moved there, and I got into commercial real estate there. I was at NAIBT. And that was great. I did a lot of tenant rep, and there was kind of sink or swim there. There wasn't much training. I did end up going to LA after that. I worked at a small boutique investment real estate firm and sold multifamily. And I would do a lot of exchanges into single tenant triple net. And so learned all about that, and was there for a few years. And then I came back home to the Portland area, and immediately ran into Seth, and he immediately proposed. So I was here to stay. And
he did come from the Wire House, so what can I say?
We were married 7 months after our first date. To the day.
Hey, coffee's for closers, folks.
Yep.
And now,
I didn't really want to go work at the corporate type style firms, because you have to be there at 6 or 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. to get any respect, especially if you're not established in that area, regardless if you have experience or not. And so I actually went to work at the little local residential firm because the owner sold us our house when we got married, and he was a great guy. So from there, I just didn't want the pressure because I had a little one, and so it worked out really well because I just started putting land deals together again and doing commercial, and the residential people would refer the business to me. And to this day, the owner and a lot of those people still, even though I started my own company eventually, they still refer all their commercial to me. So 4 years ago, I started Platform Realty Group with a partner, and I ended up buying him out a couple years later, and just got a coach and been building a team. And one of the goals was always for years, just never got it done, was wanted to get my CCIM designation. And so last year I decided I was going to do it, and I got it done in 5 months.
Wow.
which is unheard of. I mean, I heard one girl, I know one lady out of San Antonio that did it in 6 months, but I got it all done in 5 months, submitted my portfolio, and then COVID hit, so I couldn't take my exam, but I did end up getting to take it in August, and it's been a whirlwind, but it's been amazing. It was such a good experience for me. And for those of you that don't know what CCIM is, it's Certified Commercial Investment Member. And it's been established in 1969 by the National Association of Realtors, because there isn't two licenses. There isn't a residential and a commercial license, and the real estate licenses are typically more geared toward residential when you're learning the education. So they established this as kind of the global standard for the base for practicing commercial real estate, and it's just a phenomenal program.
Yeah, that is a good story, and you know what, this is why we have you on here, is because we want to talk about commercial investment real estate, and you know, it sounds like we've got somebody with some many years of great experience listening to. Having grown up in a family business, I can appreciate a lot of the nuances of learning things at a much younger age than probably most people have. You probably had your CCIM in theory long before you took the class, which is why you did it so quickly.
I had a lot of parts to it, but it's kind of funny when I look back. Like, okay, so I got licensed in '99, and so it's been 22 years that I've been actually in real estate as a broker. But I remember I'm looking back when I was dialing for dollars at the investment firm, trying to figure out how to get one of these listings pitched for my senior broker, and not really knowing what I'm talking about, to be honest with you. Like, I understood development so well, and I understood a little bit about tenant rep, but I still didn't understand cash flow analysis. I still didn't understand the time value of money. It just didn't make all that much sense. And so I would just kind of fake it. And they knew I was faking it, but I was really trying hard to just, like, basically, you're a bird dogger. You're going to go try to find them a deal. Here, is this one good? Here, is this one good? You know, and that's not really a consultant, but a lot of brokers have to start that way to learn. And so it was actually the clients that taught me things. It's really interesting. They would just say, okay, I'm sitting down to try to be their broker, and they're showing me how to analyze property. So it was interesting. I picked up a lot of it, and I think that's probably why I was able to get through the curriculum in 5 months, is because I'm pretty familiar with all of these things. It just was great to learn how to actually calculate it, and how many times I tried to create a spreadsheet that was just so inferior compared to what the CCIM spreadsheets are.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's kind of funny.
So today, what we really want to try to grasp, and there's a lot of people that ask us this question. I mean, Seth and I have people come in on a regular basis that say, hey, you know, what do you think about real estate investments? And we have lots of securities-based real estate investments that we talk to people about, and we present for people that, you know, want kind of a hands-off approach to a real estate transaction. But there's a lot of people out there that say, you know, I have a friend that owns a multifamily or an office or something like that, and they seem to be doing really, really well, and I wonder if I'm that person. Tell us, you know, what are you seeing, first of all, in the commercial real estate with the pandemic? And, you know, is this a good time to be looking at real estate to purchase? And if so, which demographic of real estate? Is there some to watch out for? What are people looking at these days?
So it's interesting. There's so much going on, and a lot of the data isn't necessarily in that would be reliable because of the stimulus. So in residential and multifamily investments, I mean, I consider both of those sort of residential because of the user. I know in the Portland area, they're still receiving rent, and I don't know if it's because of the stimulus or if there's not that many people that are losing their jobs because they are essential services, but they're not doing badly.
And that's a great point. I mean, that's something that I hadn't, you know. It is really hard to figure out, especially I think in the retail space where people may not even be shopping, that they've got PPE, you know, loans and EIDL loans. I mean, you just don't know where the money's coming from. That's a great point. Yeah.
So I think that it's a good possibility that there's going to be, and actually our retail vacancy, according to CoStar, which I rely a lot on that data because they do. I mean, that's my research department, basically. That and just talking to owners and talking to tenants and understanding what's going on in my local area. But the vacancy rates in retail are actually not that high right now in the Portland area anyway. And nationwide, I'm not really sure what's going on in every market, but it's when I'm watching it and I'm thinking, this is kind of funny. They're still occupying. They're not leaving. I've done a lot of lease assignments and this year, but there seems to be other businesses wanting to move in. So I don't know. It's really hard to tell. But the thing that I always tell clients when they're wanting to get into trying to figure out what to do. So as their consultant, I ask them lots of questions to find out, well, what are your goals? Because if you are okay with, like, let's say that you're on the West Coast and most of these markets have pretty high rent control. It's restrictive in the landlord tenant laws for residential properties it's not in the landlord's favor. So if you're willing to purchase in another location, then multifamily or single family investments could be great, plexes. But if you're over here, I oftentimes say, if you don't want to be hands-on or be dealing with the property manager and issues all the time, it's very management intensive to own residential properties. So yeah, it's their primary residence, so they're most likely to pay first, but it's also a lot of headaches and costs. So what are your goals? And if you want something less management intensive and you want something more stable, then I'm usually suggesting that you take a look at industrial and flex, or maybe office.
What do you mean by flex?
Well, flex is a combination of office and warehouse.
Okay.
So it's most industrial is flex, unless it's very heavy, because they need some kind of office space typically to run, unless they're just storing things and distributing. But technically flex would be oftentimes more of a smaller space, and then usually around a 25% office or showroom to the warehouse, and then you have your truck doors or grade doors in the back. So that's actually a very good place to put your money right now for a stable investment, because e-commerce, and there's still a lot of small businesses starting up all the time, and they need some place to make things, and the research and development is big, in tech industry and medical. So that's all driving that right now, high demand for that kind of space. And if you're looking for opportunities, then a good way to go could be in the next year or so, more value add, like retail, hospitality, possibly multifamily as well. Once the stimulus goes away, there could be owners not able to pay their mortgages. It could just be that they just want to dump it because it's just too much work to manage these properties. So to get those at a lower price it's possibly a good investment. And then you can get them stabilized by repurposing. So for instance, once we open back up, hospitality that is struggling, maybe doing some capital improvements to it, and then turning it into student housing or assisted living could be an option. I see retail, a lot of the retail that it's not working, like the big box retail, malls and things like that you see are vacant and were vacant before the pandemic, turning that into e-commerce distribution or athletic facilities, things like that. Schools, there's so many different options. So you do adaptive repurposing. So another option for retail is making it more of like an office use. That can easily turn into an office use, medical. And so there's lots of ways to just adapt and repurpose and create value with destabilized assets. And, there's just all kinds of things. Mobile home parks are a great investment. They're super easy to develop. They're easy to manage. They are just cash cows. So the opportunities are endless, and you can get into commercial real estate pretty easily by buying, there's condominium, office and flex space. That's great. Those are really easy to rent out. They're just great assets, and they're not that expensive. You don't have to go buy, multi-million-dollar property in order to get into one of these.
So there's a lot of interesting stuff there that leads me to about 30 different questions, but I'm going to try to narrow it down to one or two here real quick. The first thing I'm thinking about is some of our listeners who may own a single family house that they inherited and they started renting it. And then they realize, hey, I can make some money this way. And then they look at a multifamily and they kind of grow and grow and grow. But then there's the listener who says, I'm not able to take a lot of risk. And I'm really looking for something that's, a starter thing. So you're saying that kind of the flex space, warehouse, like individual tenant condo kind of piece is a potentially a good area to be looking at. Is that kind of how I'm hearing it?
Absolutely. I would say, something small is, and just learn how to manage it, and then you can start to grow from there. But another option too is to get into fractionalized real estate. So there's crowdfunding, you can do syndication, there's investment clubs where you can get together with your, friends in your community and purchase property and just kind of practice together, and then you're pooling funds.
Yeah. So the fractional ownership of whether it's an investment club or getting involved with a group of people to buy something, let's talk a little bit about that. So let's start with, so the pro is that you can get into real estate without having kind of this overwhelming burden of owning it by yourself. But what are the cons? Let's talk a little bit about, kind of the problematic items here, because I'm sure that there's some good ones, and I know they're out there. So I'm going to let you take that one. That'll be fun.
Well, it's kind of like I had a mentor tell me one time that having a partner is not efficient. It can be very effective, but it isn't efficient. So marriages can be very effective, but they're not necessarily efficient because you have to agree on things, or one person is the boss and the other one always feels like they're, following along. So if you have 10 of those, that can get a little tricky. So I'm really making sure that there's, I would say, a managing member who is most experienced, who pretty much just runs the show and they just follow along. It would probably be the most efficient way to do things, but there's just probably going to be personalities that you have to deal with. And then there's others where, you're very hands off. You get probably lower returns, but it's very stable. And then, you really have nothing to do with it. You just receive your check. And, they give you the results or the prospectus, and you just say, okay, great. Or, choose to stay in it, or you can exchange back out.
Gotcha. And then, so if I were to be, you talk about hospitality, and I got to be honest with you, when I hear about hospitality or retail, those are the sectors that I think, if I'm a gambling man right now, I'm looking at buying, because
sure.
They're
absolutely
right. So I look at those as much higher risk in the real estate space. Let's talk a little bit more about the ones that you feel that are much lower risk if you're really willing to take the risk of real estate on yourself. So if we have somebody who's listening here and says, I want to buy a piece of real estate, I'm literally working with a broker, or I'm looking for a broker, they can call you. And you can reach us at 855-226-8551, and we can get you Kirra's information. But where are you directing people and say, I really want to get into real estate, I'm looking for a start out piece, I want to do it myself, I've got X hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy real estate, or I qualified for a loan on this much. Where are you steering people? How are you helping them find that piece? And what's your best recommendation there right now?
Well, again, I always go back to what their long-term goals are. So whenever I bring on a client, I typically, if they're brand new, I go over long-term goals, and then I kind of create a plan for a 10-year plan, probably similar to what you guys do. So creating a plan, I'm going to take scenarios, possibly, 3 different options for them that would fit their needs, their management expectations and capabilities, and then also their financial goals. And so I'm going to do a comparison of each of those and do a 10-year projection. And it'll show them what their returns are going to be. And so I'm going to take what they want on all their needs, and I'm going to apply it to properties that I know of. So depending on what they want is going to be the type of property that I recommend. But if it's me right now, I'm looking at small flex, and large warehouse, large industrial are going to be probably the most stable assets for somebody that's just looking for stability. Like I said, value add properties are going to be some great options in retail and multifamily. I mean, and possibly multifamily, but definitely hospitality.
Folks, we are talking with Kirra Krussman. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 to connect with her and or connect with Ben and myself. You're listening to Money on Tap, and we're talking about real estate, investing in real estate. This is one of those asset classes that has gone through a tremendous amount of turmoil since the pandemic. And it's a lot of the times, it's just not really understood. And so Kirra's walking us through some ABCs and helping us out here today. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to talk more real estate when we get back.
Hi, my name is Seth Krussman, partner with Brayshaw Financial Group and one of the co-hosts of Money on Tap. One of the biggest concerns and largest expenses people face today is taxes. Without thoughtful planning, taxes can destroy future retirement dollars, eliminating the possibility of a timely retirement or dreams of what you want retirement to look like. If you're like most people, you're getting closer and closer to retirement, and you may be wondering if you're taking the right steps. Will my income be enough? Will rising taxes force me to give up my dreams? How does inflation factor into all of this? These are real concerns, and you're not alone. Putting a plan around your financial future is what we do. If you have questions when it comes to your financial security, and if you're looking for a personalized solution, contact us at Brayshaw Financial Group, 855-226-8551. It's time for you to start getting answers to your questions. Headquartered in Bedford, New Hampshire, Brayshaw Financial has offices across the country. We'd love the opportunity to show you how we can help. There's absolutely no cost or obligation to meet with us. Call us at 855-226-8551. 855-226-8551.
Now back to Money on Tap with Ben and Seth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Joining us here today is Kirra Krussman, CCIM. We discussed a little bit about that and what an awesome opportunity is to have you with us here today. It's only taken us 4 years to get you here. And we're so grateful to have you. And I will continue to just say all sorts of wonderful things about her because guess what? We're married, and that's the way it is. So Ben is kind of grabbing the reins here and leading the show. But we were talking about real estate. It's one of those asset classes that is so often misunderstood. And we love an opportunity to pierce through the veil here and talk about real estate and investing in real estate today.
Yeah, thanks, Seth. Thanks, Kirra, for being on the show. And I've wanted you on the show every day since the first day we had the show, and it's just been a push to get Seth to pull it out. So,
yeah, he gets a little jealous sometimes. He's a little competitive.
Yeah, there you go.
Just a little bit.
So, we were talking about some of the investment real estate with, multifamily. We're talking about some industrial and stuff like that. I was wondering if you could take the classes that you're talking about that might be kind of like better entry-level areas and talk a little bit about the pros and cons of each in comparison to each other so that someone who's looking at this, and I'm thinking in such broad, generic terms, but I'm thinking like, if I own a multifamily property and someone doesn't have hot water at 2 o'clock in the morning, my phone's probably going to ring. That's just kind of that scenario. So, and we all kind of know that stuff exists, but maybe you could bring a personal touch to the pros and cons of all of them and crisscrossing and where, because some people can absorb some demands on their life while other ones they can't.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have a high tolerance for pain and and lack of sleep at night when the phone rings, then definitely residential is the easiest one to get into for sure. The lending programs, the level of understanding that you need to have is just, it's so much easier to get into because people can relate. I mean, most people, when they think of real estate, they think of residential, right? Because you just live, that's all you know. You just think about houses and you don't realize, oh, look at all the other buildings around here in the land, and they don't think about commercial real estate. So it's just a lot easier. A really great book that I would recommend if you want to get into investments is The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. And it was written by Gary Keller quite some time ago. And it's just a great path to get into it. Now, it's really set up more for investing in the Midwest or in the South where it's less expensive. A lot of those numbers don't make sense when you're in more expensive areas like the West Coast and the East Coast. It's difficult, but you can start by living in, let's say, a duplex. And then you rent out the other side. It's a very favorable down payment and lending programs for you to get into that. And then you can build from there and learn how to be a landlord and manage properties. So that's a great way to get in if you have the tolerance for the management intensive properties. And, eventually you end up buying multifamily and apartment buildings, which is great. I personally have had that experience. And it's not fun. In fact, I started a property management company the same time I started my company, and that was a complete nightmare because I'm a broker. I am not detail oriented. I hunt and I kill and I eat, and was really painful for me to run that property management company. And I couldn't ever seem to find the right people to run it for me, so I ended up giving it up. I let it go. But I could totally, I understand how things work now, it was a great experience. And I don't want to ever touch that again. So that's a great avenue. I would really highly recommend that book. If you are more inclined to want something more hands-off, see, the great thing about commercial properties, especially industrial and some types of office and retail, is that they are triple net. And what that means is that the tenant pays not only for their interior maintenance and their system, so even if they have HVAC on the roof they're still responsible for that repair. But they also pay for their proportionate share if it's a multi-tenant building, their square footage and that ratio of the common area. They reimburse or pass through the taxes, insurance, and common area maintenance. And so if you have a property manager collecting all those, you literally just get a check. It's net to the owner. So those are way less management intensive. You still probably want to have a property manager to just do the accounting aspect of it and do a little bit of the coordination if there's any kind of common area maintenance, but it's a pretty simple thing to own. Probably the least management intensive would be a freestanding or a single tenant triple net. Then you do nothing. You just get a check. They handle all of everything.
That's great. So real quick, explain triple net. I mean, we understand it, but explain it to our listeners a little bit about what that means.
In a gross lease or a full service gross lease, which is common in multifamily, residential, and then also office. More like Class A high-rise type offices will do full service gross. And what that means is that the owner has to pay for, they collect the rent, and then they have to pay for the maintenance, they have to pay for the taxes, they have to pay for their insurance, capital expenses, all of that comes out of there. When you are in, there's in between as well, like modified gross. For instance, my lease where my office is, I have to pay for my proportionate share of sewer and water. But other than that, it's a gross lease. Industrial, flex, retail are triple net. And that means that they pay not only for all of and handle the interior expenses of any kind of maintenance and repair, any kind of build out, typically, unless they negotiate some type of build out with the landlord when they move in. But all that interior space is their responsibility. But they also pay for their proportionate share of their taxes, the real estate, the property taxes, the property insurance, and the property common area maintenance. On top of that, if there's different types of rentable, usable, and gross square footage. So they're going to not only occupy their usable square footage, which is their interior wall and in, but they also will pay for rent on the common area or proportionate share of the common area. So you really maximize your property in a triple net type of building or center. So it's a really much easier way of owning, in my opinion. Like I said, it's called a pass-through or reimbursement. So they're going to pay for all of the expenses, which means if things go up, they pay for it too.
It's kind of like a natural escalator that you don't have to worry about, or a piece of it.
Yeah, and they're built in. Escalations are usually built into the leases. So we do a lot of times like a 3% escalation every year on the nets, and also on the rent. So it's just built in. In multifamily and residential, a lot of times you are limited on how much you can raise the rent, and in certain periods.
Right. That's an interesting piece here as we start to come to a wrap up here on our show. We got a couple minutes left, and as I'm thinking about some of the kind of watch out, you're a new buyer concerns. One of them is rent control. In the world of all of a sudden you buy a multifamily and then you find out, hey, I'm in a rent controlled district, and you overpaid for it. That could be something that could be really catastrophic. So, what are some buyer bewares, questions to be asking, kind of things off the top of your head that you could share with our listeners as we kind of wrap up today?
I would suggest not buying in states or in cities where there's rent control, because you essentially, in some cases, just have no power over your own property. And you could end up with tenants that don't pay or they're destructive, and you can't evict them. There's no eviction laws right now in the Portland area or in Oregon. So even if they're not paying, you're not allowed to kick them out. It's a good thing most of them are paying, from what we understand. But not only that, but if you choose to go sell your property, you have to give them money. And in the city of Portland, it's 3 months of rent. And in the rest of the state, it's a month and a half. So you have to pay them to leave. And that sometimes cuts into your profits quite a bit if you are, tight, if you don't have a lot of equity in your property. Not only that, but if you can't evict them, you can't do a no-cause eviction if they're there more than a year. So there's just things that you need to have a really good property manager that is experienced, that understands the laws, because if you try to do it yourself and you don't understand the laws, you could get in a lot of trouble. There's all kinds of notices and methods, and the process is strict. So most of the courts are going to favor in the tenant's position. So just understand your local laws, or get a very good property manager to help you with it, because that would, it really could end up being an asset that doesn't perform very well, and just a headache, frankly.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's actually great stuff. And I think that's really why someone needs to deal with a commercial expert like yourself, is just really making sure they're, even when they don't know the questions to ask, that person's already asking them for you and knows where to steer you. That's really important.
This has been a lot of fun. I've really just enjoyed listening to both of you guys pass it back and forth, and I just am so fortunate to be in the room with both of you guys today, folks. If you're listening today, you've been listening to Ben Brayshaw and Kirra Krussman, and we're just having a lot of fun, you guys. And if you're listening today, you can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. You can also reach out to Kirra Krussman at Platform Realty Group. That's her company. And certainly there's a whole lot more to the topic here. We could probably bring you back next week and the week after and just keep going after that. But
do it.
Well, let's not make it a 4-year gap again. We will do that. You've been listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. You can also find us at Facebook. We're at /3D Investing. We're also on Twitter at BFG_LLC. And as always, you can also find us at yourmoneyontap.com. Thanks for listening. Thanks for liking our podcast. We appreciate you, and we can't wait to make it a great day and a great life with you here at Money on Tap.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of SagePoint Financial. SagePoint Financial and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire, 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.
Well, bye.